Good morning, everyone. It's been a long morning, so I hope I will try to make this as interesting as possible. As Hague introduced, my name is Inma. I am responsible for core cloud and OSS in Ericsson. And over the last years, we've been supporting our customers, the service providers, in their evolution and transformation along the different mobile technologies, mobile generations. I have been very specifically working on cloud transformation and lately also in the transformation to 5G. So today, I'm going to try to share with you how we see 5G and the main learnings we've made over the last years. So the different generations of mobile technology have increased the services that an end user could receive, but unfortunately, we haven't seen the industry increasing their revenues. And we believe that 5G, as it was also already mentioned this morning, is the enabler to bring up new use cases that will provide extra revenues for the operator. So is this really happening? Well, in this slide, I'm showing you the current status of 5G around the world. We have 37 commercial networks, 5G networks in the world with real subscribers. Still, the use cases, the services that we provide are basically similar to the ones we provided with 4G. That is mobile broadband and fixed wireless access. However, the users are more and more dedicating their time to applications that include new services like the use of augmented reality related basically with gaming. So they are increasing their usage more and more of the traffic. But what is more important than that is on the left-hand side of the slide, which is that around half of those operators are charging extra, they have a premium for 5G versus 4G. And this is where we're able to monetize the investments that we're doing. So it looks very promising. Also, the reason for this premium is that most operators are positioning those services as high-end, an exclusive service for advanced users. And all of this is despite the fact that we still have a long way to go when it comes to terminals, because at the moment, the devices, the 5G devices, are very expensive, and therefore we need to progress into that. So what about Ericsson? Ericsson is first with 19 live networks in the 4 continents. Here you can see our customers, and just to give you some examples of how this is happening in America, in the US, when it comes to 4G, it took 30 months for the 4 operators to become live with 4G. Instead, with 5G, it has taken 9 months. So the deployment of 5G is actually much faster than the equivalent deployment that we saw in 4G. We also highlighted here Swisscom, our partner, which has managed to cover 90% of the population with 5G in a small country, but geographically quite challenging. Korea, which is a very advanced country, the users in Korea, what they do there, the rest of the world will follow, has now 3 million 5G subscribers. It is covering 93% of the geography, and it is charging a premium for the service. The data usage from the 5G are increasing 3 times, from 9 gigs per month to 25 gigs per month, almost 3 times. So definitely, the amount of services, we are still seeing the beginning of it, but there's still a long way to go. 5G is already here, it is happening. So, how can we be successful with 5G? And I'm going to talk from the core network perspective, which is the area that I work with. The first thing that I would like to highlight is the need of having a working NFVI. Over the last years, the promise of cloud transformation has definitely taken longer than expected. Most of our customers are taking 3-4 years to deploy a complete cloud network with a real cloud network with a shared infrastructure for their telco cloud. But this is really happening, and what we think is this is absolutely fundamental for the evolution into 5G. So our recommendation, because of all the difficulties that you have to integrate the different features, different pieces of the NFVI, is to go for a system-verified solution where a provider like us has tested, pre-integrated that you will deploy in the network, because you want to deploy this as fast as possible. And of course, that infrastructure has to be prepared to handle also cloud-native workloads or applications. The second thing is we need to evolve into the use cases, and we need to see what is the 5G business we want to grab. And in order to do that, based on those objectives, business objectives, you need to have a network that can adapt to those different requirements that the use cases will bring. And among them, you will have to distribute your geography much more, where the core network gets closer to the edge, because the compute needs to get closer to the subscriber to be able to have less latency, among other things, right? And the third one, of course, is that in order to handle all the complexity, in order to handle very different workloads into a common infrastructure, dynamic orchestration is absolutely key. It will be the only way to reach automation and be able to reduce your operational costs. Operations themselves must change, and you need to be handling lifecycle management in an automatic way. First of all, you need a working NFVI platform, and that means that the platform is open, following standards, so that you can use different vendors whenever you want to. Can handle different VNFs and eventually CNFs ready for cloud native. So here we have a picture of how we see an NFVI that is 5G capable and that can become the 5G cloud infrastructure. Today we have mainly the central data centers, very few sites that currently are handling either PNF, functions that have not been virtualized, or virtual functions based on OpenStack and SDN. But it has to also admit a container as a service layer based on Kubernetes that will handle the cloud-native applications. It is not only about handling everything on the same infrastructure on one data center, it is about expanding closer to the edge to handle the different use cases. So your NFVI needs to become the edge NFVI and then have a possibility to deploy on-premise equipment. The most important part of this slide, though, are the two arrows. The one below that shows that you have a centralized hardware management so that you can handle all the different resources across the geography. And the top line over there, where you have a dynamic orchestration to be able to handle the services, the network slices that you will need, all from a central location. So we have talked about cloud native, and there's a lot of hype in the market about cloud native, but what is cloud native really about? Cloud native are a set of design principles on how you are developing your applications. These are our design principles in Ericsson. Agnosticity, it can run on any cloud, on any container as a service. It can run as a decomposed software. It is built by small pieces, by small microservices that allow any service to be using those specific common components in different ways. And that allows very easy scaling up and down for specific services that you need. It has application resiliency to make sure that when something goes wrong, the service continues, even if it's just one instance that is still alive, and you don't have any more restarts, as we have now in the nodes. It has state-optimized design depending on the specific application, and it can be orchestrated from a central location all across the geography. Overall, we're going towards a new paradigm when it comes to software deployment. We need continuous integration, continuous deployment. And if you look into the smaller pieces that Cloud Native brings with it, it will allow you to have LCM of individual components that will give you the flexibility to continue your service despite of the continuous functionality coming from your service provider to be able to have new services. So Cloud Native is absolutely essential to be able to have very fast launch of new services, new use cases across the 5G networks. The second thing I wanted to mention was how to capture the new 5G business. This is from a study we just launched, which is 5G for Business. You will have a link at the end of it, where we have looked into which kind of industries will provide 5G-enabled revenue. And as you see here, there are quite many industries that have a potential to increase the 5G revenues. Mainly, the largest ones are healthcare, manufacturing, energy, and automotive. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you see the addressable market. We believe that the service provider has the potential to increase up to 35% their current revenues in 2030, in 10 years, only in 10 years, because of these new 5G-enabled applications. And that, of course, that amount will depend on the role that the service provider wants to play in the value chain. So a little bit more about that role. All the application providers, the one creating new applications for gaming, for virtual reality in all industries, for manufacturing, for autonomous vehicles, they are all seeing their needs of having an increased compute capability closer to the edge. So the service provider has a unique position because it has a distributed infrastructure to become the service provider to those industries and being able to create a platform where they can configure, where they can have the new service immediately activated. It is not only that they have the geography. We believe communication service providers, they have the most important thing of all, and that is that they know the network. If you want to implement a new use case with a certain latency requirement, there's no one else but the service provider that understands how the network is going to react, how the different flows and different network slices are going to behave in the network, and that can actually warranty an SLA for that specific service. So we think the service provider, again, is extremely well positioned to grab these new revenues. The third learning is about the new operations. This is a slide that shows the automation journey. So this is not something that you're going to do in just one step. If you look on the left-hand side, this is how we started virtualization. Due to the complexity, many operators started to virtualize their network functions on a vertical way, creating stills, continuing with the silos between the different functions in the core network. Then, for that, you just needed to have the basic LCM of the network functions. Then, on the middle, you see where most large operators are now, a real cloud infrastructure sharing different functions on top of them. And in order to do that, you need to increase the automation by going more into the resource automation of your cloud, and also by introducing new workflows for the VNFs, like scaling and healing in an automated way. So that would be the second step where most operators are now. We also see a box that maybe you can't see from the back of a basic service assurance where you might be able to have a look visually to your network and understand what you have and where it is for the different services. When it goes to the third part, here we have a truly distributed cloud where you can introduce 5G use cases. And in order to do that, you need to increase your automation and go into service automation, network slice automation, so that you can do that automatically, and go into the different layers of the network, approaching transport, and also creating the insights from the network, analytics, and create the closed loop assurance that will guarantee the automated operations of the network. It is not only about technical evolution, it is also about operational evolution. We need to support the service provider to move from the vertical silos into the horizontal, and we need to create new KPIs that provide the end user with the right KPIs to fulfill their service. So there's an evolution in the processes, in the way of working that has to take place within the operator to be able to handle these new core network needs. And this is a summary of how, I am out of time, so I will go a little bit fast, how you need to prepare for 5G and the capabilities that you need in the three aspects: business, technical, and operational. But I wanted to finish showing you some reading for your trip back, where we explain this that I just presented to you a little bit more in detail. And I would also like to invite you to our stand, where you can see the real 5G. You will be able to see the Edge NABI demo. You will be able to see our proposal for 5G smooth transition in the core network, our 5G dual mode code. There you will be able to instantiate a cloud-native function via orchestration, and you will see an in-service software upgrade, one of our headaches right now in the virtual functions world. So I really invite you to go there and touch the real 5G. As you see, the technology is ready. The business is there to be grabbed by different players. So what is your next step to 5G? Thank you very much.